Welcome to Horror Makes Us Happy, the podcast where we ask the question, what is it about horror that makes us happy? Your hosts are Steve Becker and myself, Chris Whitman, and you can find out more about us at our website, horrormakesushappy.com. Before we get started, a little information for you and the listeners. This is the trigger warning. We're going to be talking about horror movies, horror culture, which could involve some dark and macabre things, anything from murder, rape, suicide, child abuse, basically dark stuff. So, if that's not your cup of tea, this is your warning to listen to something else, or maybe rethink it and come back after a minute. But that being said, on with the show. Today, we have the company of someone who basically needs no introduction, if you ask me, but Ken Foree, actor known for such works as, Rob Zombie's Halloween, Devil's Rejects, Dawn of the Dead, Texas Chainsaw 3. The list goes on. There are several works. And it is a pleasure to have you today, Ken. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Glad to be here.
Our pleasure. So we talked about this a little bit before, but basically the way we do this is we ask a bunch of questions about childhood, teenage years, and then adulthood. Coming at it from these different directions sometimes triggers memories that you'd forgotten. But that said, it's not meant to be a therapy session. So if there's something you don't remember or you don't want to answer, just say pass and move on. But starting with childhood, what are some of your earliest memories of scary things?
Oh, gee, we had, like everyone else in America, and I guess they had their local, regional Friday night creature feature or scare you to death, or I think it was Sammy Terry in Indiana for many people. I knew other horror broadcasts, and they always came on Saturday nights or Friday nights, and you would always have something that would scare you to death, Dracula or Frankenstein, and you could watch those movies over and over and over again because they would replay them, and you were just as frightened, and it's just crazy. It was a great time.
Were there any particular movies or stories that you remember specifically?
Well, of course, all the Bela Lugosi, all of his, every Dracula he's in. The Frankenstein films as well. As I grew older, but I guess we'll cover that later. But there's the Hammer films, but basically, even some of the comedies with Abbott and Costello meets Frankenstein was a great kick. So any horror film in the 50s and the 40s, House on Haunted Hill, Jesus Christ, there were so many.
Did you have any family members that were horror fans, or was it? My
brothers were with me, and I was the older brother, and we would pop popcorn, and we would sit in the living room, and we watch it. And back in those days in Indiana, the television course went off the air at 11 o'clock. So we'd be, about 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, and we'd go off air, and we just watch the scary movie. And we all go to bed, and then I would creep around and scare the hell out of them all night long.
Oh, nice. So you were the instigator in that situation.
It was great. It was absolutely.
When you said I think you said they were younger brothers. How much was the age difference?
I was 5 years older than my brother, Barry, and then my brother Derek was 2 years younger than him, and Rodney was 2 years younger than him.
So 5 and 7. That's a pretty good age difference if you wanted to scare him.
Oh, absolutely. I had a ball, man. I was my Friday evening ritual. Scared the hell out of my brother,
Did you participate in Halloween when you were a kid?
Oh, absolutely. It was great.
Do you have a favorite costume?
Oh God, we lived in a complex, I guess. It's called Lockfield Gardens. It's in Indianapolis, Indiana. And I was born in General Hospital there, and we went to my aunt's house. And then my father was employed by Lockfield, and he got a job there. And so we moved there. And each separate building enclave it's shaped in a semi-triangle, had I guess 5 floors each building. You had probably 3 or 4 buildings within that triangle. And in that courtyard, you had a sandbox, monkey bars, swings, sliding boards. Okay. And you had on your left side of the complex, you had at least 8 of those in a row going all the way up to the beginning of the complex. So you had all of and each one had their own playgrounds. And on the right side, you had 8 on the right side as well. Same thing. In the middle, you had this large green island of and a chain that surrounded it, and anyone that was caught even stepping on that grass was immediately thrown out of the complex. It was like that. At one end, you had shops and beauty shops and other businesses, and the main office. At the other end, you had after those the last triangular or half triangle shaped housing structure, you had what was called the group houses, which were about 4 or 5 rows of townhouses, and in between that there was a huge playground. This playground had swings and sliding boards and teeter-totters that were meant to kill kids.
Aren't they all though? Like the merry-go-round?
Meant to destroy your life. If you took your life in your hands. If you got the swing was so you get a full swing on that thing, and you thought you were going to fly. I mean, really fly in terms of you were going to take off and hover about 50 feet in the air. That's how long that was. The sliding board must have had 20 to 25 steps going up before you could get up and slide down. So
with all those buildings, Halloween must have been awesome because you
had plenty of neighbors too. Man, it was great. I'm telling you, you had a public school right on the playground as well, in a section there. And I lived right opposite that school. That was a public school. My aunt was the principal there. You had a basketball court, and the basketball court was a famous basketball court it's called the Dust Bowl. And it's historically written about and documented. And so I sold Kool-Aid there as a kid for 5 cents a cup to some of the great basketball players in NBA history. I also had, so when we getting back to Halloween, when my mother took us out to go Halloween trick-or-treating, we went to about 3 or 4 of those little enclaves and went up to all those apartments. And by that time, my bags were full. So
we didn't
have to go any further. It was crazy. Right? It was a gorgeous, gorgeous place, and it was something out of a fantasy, out of something that you dream up. I can't really describe it the way it should be described.
Did you have a favorite costume?
Oh, goodness. I don't remember them. I think I had ghost costumes, and I think I had pirate costumes and that kind of thing. I don't remember exactly. I had one for each Halloween for quite a while. And then my brothers came. and as I got older, I think I stopped going trick-or-treating by the time the youngest brother was born. And at that point, I was about 9 years old or something, whatever. And I was,
I mean, that's what happens. You grow out of it. You go from trick-or-treating to now it's time to go to parties.
That's right. Well, it was certainly time to think of other things. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And but it was a great environment and a very strong community. People looked out for you. Of course, they were. In those days, if you did something wrong, you got a beating from the neighbor who saw you doing it, and then your mother beat you when you got home as well. Damn. So you didn't take a chance of doing anything and let anybody spot you, because you certainly.
That's a good That's a good segue into the next question, which is, did you have anything in real life that actually terrified you?
In real life that terrified me?
Mm-hmm.
Aside from neighbor beatings.
The threat of neighbor beatings.
That was a terrifying thought. You're right. You're being funny, but you hit it dead on the head. Some of those people were cruel. You're making me think of a few faces that I remember, a few beatings I had. And then I said, "Oh God, damn! I'm gonna get this from a neighbor. What am I gonna get when I got home?" So anyway, did I not terrified of anything? I don't think as a young boy, as a young man, you always dream that you're, or you think that you're. I always thought that I was Roy Rogers or the singing cowboy Gene Autry. I was always Superman. I was the kid. I was always the hero, like most young kids do. You think that until somebody bust your bubble, but you think that you dream those dreams. Yeah. And certainly I wasn't afraid of anything, and probably should have been. But I remember, I'll give you an example. There wasn't a swimming pool near us, and the closest one was in a place called Hallville, which is a community that was a little bit a few miles away. And I think it was a 5-mile walk. And there was a shortcut, but you had to go across White River or White Creek, I think, something like that. And there's a train trestle. So you had to walk across this train trestle. And so my mother told me never to do it, of course. And my neighbors did it all the time. And it cut off about a mile or two. So
I'm getting Stand By Me vibes.
Yeah, right? That's right. That's exactly it. And so we, so I grabbed my brothers and I said, if those guys are going to do it, we're going to do it. Come on. Right. We're going across the train trestle. We're not going to walk that 5 miles. And it worked out fine until one day, one of my brothers panicked. And he panicked the train was coming. And he panicked. There was no place to go. I mean, you jumping 30 feet of water, or you just 30 feet deep, or you just you could get run over by the train. So I'm trying to get this guy off his hands and knees. And say, get up.
You were kidding. This is like verbatim straight out of
kill me. I said, Mom's going to kill me if you don't get up. I can't let you die. Get up, son of a gun. So, that was the one of the fears. One of the fears was being, there were strict disciplinarians back in those days. And my God,
oh, yeah.
If you did something stupid or screwed up and you deserved it, you got it. And my mother was one to not spare the rod. I guarantee you. She was wonderful in that way, and she should have done it more. My father was a sweetheart. He didn't want to ever hit any of us or talk. Yeah, we were his boys, so anything we did was fine. But my mother, she would just tear away.
I can relate.
Oh, she put down the law, my friend.
I can relate. I lived with my grandmother growing up, and we didn't know it at the time, but I guess she had a hysterectomy or something like that at the time, and they had taken the whole thing out. And of course, back then they didn't know that you had to do hormone replacement therapy. So she was going through an early menopause, and that was fun. Yeah.
Woo! And you had to live through it. You were the wall.
There were a couple times there were a couple times I hid under the kitchen table from her.
Yes. Oh, yes. Yes. We had another, my cousin and I had I guess she was a great aunt. So she was married to one of the great uncles that I didn't know, was dead before I was born. But anyway, she lived with my aunt, and boy, we would tease her, and she would iron with her ironing board, and we would find some time to tease her because we'd done everything else out in the yard and wherever we could run around, and so we said, let's tease Miss Georgie. And she would just hum those church songs. the church song, ironing her clothes, and wasn't paying attention. And we teased her and teased her and teased her. And she had a ironing cord that she kept near her.
Uh-oh.
Not the cord that was attached to the iron, but the spare one. And and then occasionally she would catch us with that ironing cord. And boy, let me tell you, being hit with an ironing cord is no fun. She gave us exactly what we deserved for bothering that old lady. So she
play with the bull, get the horns.
Yeah, there you go, buddy. Let me tell you. So yeah, that's. I think that I pretty much dared, stood in the wind and dared the fantastic to do something to me. I was a young kid. Nothing could hurt me then. Nothing. I didn't think anything could. You got to protect fools and babies, and I certainly was that. So,
Did you have any reoccurring dreams when you were a kid?
Reoccurring dreams?
Yeah, like nightmares.
I don't think so. I can't remember. No.
Okay.
Yeah, it sounds like you're a pretty fearless little kid.
Yeah, pretty much. You think that the sliding board and the swings scared the hell out of me in Lockfield. I tell you that because they were just intimidating as all get out. I don't know how a lot of kids had a lot more heart than I did. I got on them, I did it, but a lot of kids just went up there and zip, and I said, "Damn, okay." But it wasn't really that was intimidation. But it was a good testing ground for developing young manhood in that community, and so we were pretty staunch and tough kids. Yeah, nothing was going to hurt us. And also, as I said, I was watching the Lone Ranger and the Superman and those kind of things. So I thought I was that person. You couldn't tell me I wasn't Roy Rogers. You couldn't tell me I couldn't, I couldn't do what he's doing. Even though my horse Trigger was a broomstick, an old broom, beat up broom that nobody wanted, and I used that as my horse, like all the other kids.
Yeah, that's what you do when you're a kid.
Yeah. You have to be inventive.
You're ahead of your time because now you got kids with the hobby horse thing, and they're doing just that.
Oh man, these are kids that had money. Man, we had no money.
Right.
We had no money. We ate well. There's always plenty of food, and we were voracious eaters. We were big boys, and so we ate well. The strange thing about growing up in Indiana, there was either a peach tree, an apple tree, a cherry tree, a grapevine, and almost every yard there's a variety of there's a tree of some sort of fruit. And you could spend, when I got out of Blockfield, we moved back into, the regular community. We would, as young kids, we would, just eat breakfast and then just take off and go, running around and having a good time. And if we got hungry, we just look at somebody's yard and say, what have they got?
Yeah,
we would raid the apple trees.
Few people with like tangerine trees and Florida,
man.
So it was mostly citrus.
It was but mostly apple, cherry trees, grapevines. That was pretty much what we sustained ourselves with. So we ate a lot of apples and a lot of grapes and a lot of cherries.
You know what? Now that you mention it, I remember we had a peach tree in my backyard, and I don't remember eating any of those peaches. I just remember stepping in them barefoot a lot because they turn real quick when they fall.
We had some peaches as well too. You're absolutely right. Yeah, those two. They're not as many, but Indiana's an apple state, so yeah, we had a lot of apple trees. Yeah. Everybody had an apple tree, and we raided every. if they didn't have a German Shepherd or a bulldog guarding the backyard, we hopped the fence and that tree was ours. Oh, it was just crazy. crazy times, but wonderful times. Wonderful times.
So let's jump into teenage years. What were some of what comes to mind when I say horror in teenage years?
Horror in teenagers. Jesus, I don't know. I'm trying to think if I was I really looking at.
And you may not have. That's not uncommon.
I don't know if I was looking at that much television in those years. I was an athlete.
Okay.
And so it was basically getting up, going to school, going to practice, coming home, tired, eating dinner, doing the homework, and going to sleep. I don't think I watched a lot of television at that time. I'm trying to think if there's anything that really...
Maybe movies?
Journey to the Center of the Earth. I think I saw that, but I saw that early. That was early before I left Indiana. I was in Colorado for my sophomore year. Yeah, I was basically, I was always out. I was out doing something. If I wasn't doing anything, I was outside. I was sleeping or eating.
You were the model child for the parent that says, "Why are you always in front of that TV or playing video games? Get outside."
Oh no, they wouldn't. They should have had my life. There was nothing. Yeah, I think I was home when the Beatles were on Ed Sullivan.
Okay.
I saw that.
Okay.
I saw that. So there's no horror. I don't even remember going to the drive-in, but once or twice, which is unusual for teenagers. Usually you have to drive in almost every weekend with somebody. But I was basically just trying to stay out of as much trouble. Trying to stay out of trouble because I was still a pretty rambunctious kid as a sophomore in school, and I needed to cool that down a bit. So I tried to stay out of trouble, and I was becoming a star athlete as well. So I had to kind of keep my nose to the grindstone. So I had very little time for television. So I don't know if anything scared me except for, some of the life lessons that I was learning. The young African-American boy growing up is a little different than an African-American teenager getting bigger and having to deal with some of the realities of life. So that was a little disturbing sometimes, but other than that, wasn't much there. I was pretty dull, pretty much like I am now, dull. Give me a documentary and a glass of Crystal Light, and I'm happy. So I'm not, as a lot of people think, that I may live a more exciting life, but I'm happy. But I don't do a lot of what people might think I do.
I don't know if you noticed, but I actually lost my internet connection there for a minute.
I did notice, yeah.
Ooh.
So what I'm going to do, in the past when this has happened, we've learned that there's a chance that we could lose some audio. So I'm going to actually hit stop recording on my side. Hit recording again. So last thing I heard was that you were in Colorado for your sophomore year.
Yes.
So you had you'd stopped participating in Halloween by then.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I think that I don't know. We might have had a few Halloween parties during the school year. It's good that every school year. Might have had a few dances, that kind of thing. So we did that. Okay. But it's basically high school stuff. I don't remember if I was influenced by any horror. I think I'd already cemented that during my years in Indiana.
It's not uncommon. A lot of our guests have had similar stories where they had either some sort of experience in their childhood and then went to something else in their teenage years and came back to it in adulthood, or maybe didn't even have it in their childhood at all and didn't come into it until later.
Yeah.
That's part of the, interesting thing about talking about this kind of stuff is, everybody's life is different.
Yeah.
So, anything actually scare you in your teenage years?
My teenage years. Poverty.
That's a real terror. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is a very
you get to be a teenager and you want certain things, and we had a more difficult time in Colorado than we expected. So it was tough for my family.
And it's also something more common to learn as a teenager, because often as a kid, your parents go to extra lengths to make sure that, you don't see that kind of thing until.
Yeah. And as a teenager, I could see it and felt it. And, when you want to go and have a spending spree at the local department store or, buy this and that, and you don't have a dime, right. You know that your parents don't. So just leave that alone. Okay. So that was, yeah.
I can relate to that too. Like I said, I was raised by my grandmother, and she was born in the Great Depression. So, there's pros and cons to it too, though. I mean, as an adult now, it's very nice I have a very clear delineation between what I want and what I need. There's a lot of people who don't have that, and they just blow a lot of money that, to me, I look at it and go, okay, well, that's you, but,
Yeah, I had an uncle who went to Indiana University, and I think my uncle must have been there in the 30s, 40s, early 40s, somewhere like that. And from what I understand, the story goes that he wore the same pair of pants and suit for winter and a pair of pants and a suit for summer. And he wore that 4 years. That was it.
Take that, Einstein.
Well, now that we've got the whole COVID working from home thing, wear the same clothes for 3 or 4 years and nobody even knows.
Yes.
I may or may not have worn a pair of pants for like 5 days straight. I don't know.
Yeah, you gain weight and you gain weight and you don't shave, and you go in the house and then COVID hits, and then the next thing you come out and no one recognizes you. You say, who's the big fat man? Oh, that's
it's insulation. It's face insulation and body insulation. That's what it's. Yeah.
Guilty as charged. Actually, before we jump into the adulthood questions, I mean, elephant in the room, you're an actor, you've been in some horror movies. How did that happen? How did you get into acting? How did you get into that stuff?
Oh, gee, that's an interesting story. I was in New York. I had a photography studio. I had worked at different jobs. I was, still young, but I worked with. I was the manager of the Baronet Cornet Theater, the Fine Arts Theater, and the Festival Theater and the DeMille Theater. All those 4 different theaters in New York City. And I'll just give you a lineup of what premiered at those theaters. At the Baronet Cornet, it was The Exorcist and my God, Mrs. Robertson, Dustin Hoffman.
The Graduate.
Graduate. At the Fine Arts, it was The Producers. At the festival, it was Deer Hunter. And at DeMille, it was The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Wow. And you were manager of all these activities and places at the same time? Or
not at the same time. No. I moved from theater to theater to theater, just moving around.
Yeah.
So
you're giving those to me, and I'm going, well, the Deer Hunter came out later. That was,
Yeah.
So you got into being a theater manager.
Sorry. Yeah. I had the only theater I had when we did a senior boys play at Annunciation High School in Denver, Colorado. And we decided this is a senior boys play now. We're going to play, we put on Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. And you
did it the Shakespearean way.
Oh, please. Let me tell you. Yeah. And see, so I open the play and I come out and I have my mother's dress on. I have my basketball shoes and sweat socks on.
Okay.
And I have this little knit hat, those little knit hats that women used to wear with like a skull cap, but it looks like little hair little tweeds of
Okay.
hair. I mean, it's a style that women use now, kind of twisting their hair into little braids and they stick up. I had this little brown hat and I had it on my head. That was supposed to be my hair. And I had an apple and a cloth. And I was playing the Wicked Witch. So I stepped out on stage, and the entire gymnasium, the entire auditorium, every nun, all the kids and all the freshmen to seniors, they were laughing so hard. Some of them were falling off the chairs. They were laughing so hard. I couldn't. I tried to get up my first line. Every time I opened my mouth, they would die laughing. So that was the only time I've ever been on stage. And that was so memorable because it was the funniest time. Some nuns, you get, I don't know if you guys know any of the sisters of the faith or any of the nuns. I've been to Catholics, been around Catholics. But there's always a
went
nun
to Catholic schools, yeah.
Yeah, there's always a nun that doesn't smile. A nun that never.
In my experience, there's occasionally a nun that does smile. Most of them are just deadpan.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Well, we had a few nuns that did not smile.
So they're just staring.
And they were laughing their head off.
They were.
Oh my God, they were laughing. I mean, it broke up everyone. I think I took 10 minutes, maybe a little over 10 minutes to get out my first line. I'm serious, and I'm not exaggerating. It was that long because every time I opened, I went. I think I said mirror, mirror or something, or whatever, and they would laugh there. And so I was a star athlete. I was there. So and to see me dressed up like that and see that they just cracked up. So that was the only time I've ever been on stage until I'll go back to New York now. And then I got involved in counseling in the high schools in New York. And then some political programs as well, some political organizations around the city. And I opened a photographer's workshop, not photographer's workshop, a photographer's studio with a friend of mine. And we were robbed within the first 2 months. And we didn't have insurance yet. Yep, we didn't have insurance yet. They took everything, all our cameras. We had a dark room. That's when we had people who used dark rooms, and we had all our equipment and our chemicals, and we had, several very nice cameras, and they took everything. So I was in between what I was going to do at that point, and I was talking to an actress I knew, and her name's Cheryl Carter. She's an actress. She was in a Michael Keaton film, I think with Henry Winkler, I think it was. And I can't think of the name of it, but she was, she's an actress, and she was telling me about going down and auditioning. She said, listen, I got to go down and audition for a part on 42nd Street. Why don't you come with me? We'll have something to eat afterwards. I said, okay, why not? So I went down and I sat in the audience and I saw what they were doing. And somebody said, why don't you read? I said, read what? Just read, just for the fun of it. I said, okay, why not? So I went up and I read, and I was given the lead in an off-Broadway play. Nice. That was the beginning of my career. Huh. Very unorthodox, but that's how it started. And from there, I got great reviews at the Manhattan Theater Club. And I went on to do several other off-Broadway plays, and I got a Kojak, and I got Bingo, Long Traveling All-Stars, and Motor Kings, and the rest is history.
Okay. So I'm just trying to think of the timeline in terms of like where horror came back into your life, for the theme of this show anyway. Okay.
Let me, I can tell you a real interesting story about being an actor just before that happened. Okay. Before the Dawn of the Dead happened. Okay. And then we can segue up to Dawn of the Dead and other horror stuff. This is a real interesting story, and it relates to something I'm doing right now. Anyway, so I get a call, and this is 75. They said, listen, they want to see you at the United Artists Building. I said, who? I said, just some people want to meet you. You just go over there.
The showbiz people, you know.
Yeah, right. I don't know. And so
why
I
asking so many questions?
Huh? What is that?
I said, why are you asking so many questions?
Just get over there. Get your ass over there, you know? So, anyway, so I go up and I meet these two people. One was named Chris Mankiewicz, and the other was a woman by the name of Anna Navarro. And they told me that they were looking for somebody, and they were looking at two people, and they're looking for a project that they were going to shoot, and they really wanted to see some of my work, and did I have any reels or anything like that? And I said, no, I don't have anything like that. They said, okay, we really like to see your work because we've heard we're looking for your type. And so I convinced them to come down and see me. They said, no, I don't. Well, first of all, they said, no, that they didn't have time. They couldn't do it. And I said, no, if you really want to see me work, come down to my acting class tonight. I'm doing a scene from The Great White Hope. So come down and see me do this. Come on. Yeah. I convinced them to come. And they came down after I did my scene. They told me to meet them in the lobby, and I did. They said, come up and see us tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock, at 9 o'clock. So I get there at 8. And nobody's there till 10.
Well, you definitely made it on time.
Yeah. So
in the days before cell phones.
That's right, baby. That's right. So they take me in and they tell me the film is about Crispus Attucks, the first man killed in the American Revolutionary War. That they're going to shoot it in Jamaica, in Boston, and the UK. And that my co-stars would be Trevor Howard and John Gielgud, Sir Trevor Howard and Sir John Gielgud.
Mm-hmm. Nice. That
they were going to release it for the bicentennial, and that I would travel all over the country, and probably and also the UK to advertise, to publicize it, that kind of thing. And it was going to make me a huge star. And I said, "Oh, really?" So they said that they were looking at me and a gentleman on the East Coast, and a gentleman who was out on the West Coast, named an actor by the name of Dick Anthony Williams. Did you see Steve Martin in that? What's that thing where he was born to a black family?
The Jerk.
The Jerk.
Yeah, I think it was
The Jerk, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, Dick Anthony Williams played his brother in the black family, tall, light-skinned guy. So they were looking for a mulatto, and they had me and Dick Anthony Williams as the two candidates. And they said, "We really think you're going to be you're the one. You have to take a screen test, of course, but we really think you're going to be. We really want you." And I said, "Oh, okay." I'm going, "Wow, this is real. This is really, really happening." I, of course, left there and got in the elevator, and I couldn't feel the ground under my feet. I was just floating. I said, "Gee, look, Sir John Gielgud, Trevor Howard, are you kidding me? Are you my co-stars? I'm going to be a Crispus Attucks, the first man, the first patriot, the American hero, the first American hero, the first one to die in the American Revolutionary War. I'm going to be that person, represent that person." I was just wild. I said, "This is great, really great." So I get home, and they said, "We'll call you in a couple of weeks. We have to clean up some financial matters." And so I said, "Okay." So I didn't hear from them in 2 weeks. And third week coming, I said, "What's going on here?" And I went back to the office at United Artists, and I asked for them. I said, "No, they were just using these offices." And it was Philip Kurtzner. I'm trying to think of the Kratzner. Maybe he was a producer. Those were his offices, though they're back in California. I said, "Well, would you let them know that I stopped by and I was curious to know what was going on? Could they contact me?" They said, "Sure, we'll let them know." And so I got a call from Chris Mankiewicz a few days later. And that year, they had changed the tax laws. and half the films that were slated to go lost their funding. Ooh. And Christmas Addicts was one of them.
It happens.
It does, yeah.
Happens, brother. I can tell you more about how many chances I've had. But anyway.
So you said that tied in with something you're doing now?
Yeah. I wrote in that city of Indianapolis, Indiana, that I described to you in that project, Lockfield Gardens, there was a street, Indiana Avenue, where all the great jazz artists played, including Smokey Carmichael. All the great jazz artists would play. And then around the corner within blocks was a high school that was built in 1927, opened in 1927. And it was a school where they wanted to get the blacks out of the white schools in Indianapolis because they were afraid of miscegenation. And so they moved them all into all of them getting in with the Glee Club and wanted to be on this, the social, whatever social kind of activities that were going on in school. There were just too many black children in the white schools, and it's becoming a problem. So they moved them all into Christmas Addicts. And so it's a unique situation because of a big industrial city like Indianapolis. You have all of these people who are in the black community who now, from 1927 to 1970s, when it was integrated in 73. So all these people have gone to this school and they know each other. I know that you're Jones, or I know I went to school with your sister. I went to school with your uncle.
It's a community.
They all knew each other from generation to generation. So this is, many generations on top of each other from 1927 all the way back. The people just knew your families. And so my father's family had 8 siblings, and they all were addicts. The one that I told you about that went to IU and wore the suits. He was the captain of the ROTC at Addicts.
So I think what we skipped was that the name of the school was
Christmas Addicts. Yes, Christmas Addicts. Yes, no, I said that. Christmas Addicts High School. And so I wrote a 6-hour. Have written a 6-hour limited series about Addicts, Christmas Addicts High School. It's called Addicts. And I'm pushing it right now and trying to get it seen in terms of agents and production houses, because it's a great piece of work. And we've had some really fine reviews of the writing and the story. Spike Lee did a 20-minute documentary, I think, on Oscar and Addicts, Oscar Robertson and Addicts. Oscar Robertson went to that school, and Oscar Robertson was considered the best basketball player to have ever played the game until Michael Jordan came around. Mm-hmm. Just, it's a wonderful piece of work, and we're just trying to get it on the right desks and the right people. And I spent a lot of time developing it, did a lot of research, and it's just great. Then I've written, but what I have now is a serial killer script that I've taken a young child from the age of 5 and do adolescence and his teenage years, and his until he becomes a killer. And
interesting. So it's like the story of the life and forming of this serial killer.
Exactly.
Well, we wish you good luck on all of that stuff. I'm curious to go back to the, you mentioned that being considered for that role then kind of played into how you got into the horror roles.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was doing my third, maybe 4th off-Broadway production. One of the actors told me, hey, they're looking for somebody that you might fit the bill. A big guy that's, imposing guy like you. So maybe you might want to go up and try out and audition. So I got the address, I called, made an appointment, and went up to Midtown and Richard Rubenstein's office, George Romero's office. Went in, auditioned with Galen Scott and David M. King. Went back a week later, or a few days later, and auditioned with 3 other individuals. And then they called me a few days after that and told me that I had the role. And that's how I got Dawn of the Dead.
Okay.
Mm.
I was the only person. See, there's always a story on top of a story with me, you know. So
you got to have an intro story to connect to the story.
I've got. When I start, I always have something that comes to mind. I had my SAG card. I had to have it for Bingo Long and Kojak. So I had SAG after I was a union member,
right?
And I wasn't working. I was just doing stage and trying to pick up little work. And I think I was assistant manager of a bar. And really, I was a bouncer. So bartender / bouncer / assistant manager. Mm-hmm. So I'm doing that stuff, and I said, I get this script, and I said, oh God, I knew Dawn of Night of the Living Dead. I was a friend of Dwayne Jones. We had been involved in the same theater group and activist group for years. So I saw Dwayne all the time. I was one of the first people, I guess. I don't know if I was one of the first people, but I certainly was one of the people that saw his picture on the marquee on 125th Street movie house and ran down to where we had a loft where we had our meetings at our organization. I said, Dwayne, you're in a movie, man. What is that? He said, shh, don't say anything. I said, okay, but why are you keeping it quiet, man? He said, I'll tell you about it later. So I knew the film. I was a fan of the film. Certainly Dwayne was in it, so I definitely was going to watch. So, I got this script and I said, oh my God, this is in color. This is going to be in color. My God, there's a lot of bloodletting here. Matter of fact, there's going to be gore everywhere. Entrails flowing all over this place. Then I said, this is too bloody. They're not going to let this thing in the country. I said, okay, I need money badly. Okay, I'm going to take a chance. This thing will not play Guam. Let alone get in the United States. I'm going to take my chance. So I took the chance. I was the only SAG member on the set. And Salah Hassanin and Richard Rubenstein, I tipped my hat to them. They got this thing played in every drive-in, midnight screening, upscale theater in the country. They had it everywhere across the country. This thing played, and it got press everywhere. I mean, we were on Gene Shalit, Rona Barrett. There was so many. Gene Shalit, Rona, Cisco and Ebert.
Right.
I forget the other. Rex Reed. All of those people gave us a thumbs up. Some of them said, I'm not going to see it again. But for those people that like this stuff, it's very good. We give it a thumbs up.
I would say that's a mission accomplished when somebody says, I don't want to see that again. It scared me kind of way, not it was bad. Yeah.
No, it was a compliment. It was a compliment, because they said, it's not my kind of genre, but it's not the genre I'm interested in, but this is very good. So you should see it. So when I followed it out to California, and when I got to California, my God, it was everywhere. I was driving. Oh, I got so many stories I can't tell you. I'm not going to get into that because I got to get out of here in a few minutes. So we'll have to cut this. But I'm just tell you that when I got out to California, I said, okay, I'm going to get some acting work here, and I knew some guys because I met all those guys from Universal doing Bingo Long, and I knew all the assistant directors and the project managers and stuff, so they were going to hook me up.
Well, hang on a second. Rather than going into the rest of your career here, the vibe I'm getting out of this, and it's not uncommon even for myself, for example, I don't really consider or had not considered myself a fan of horror until maybe the last 5 years. I happen to find a particular subgenre that has something that I appreciate. And it sounds to me like that might be kind of a similar situation with you. You know, there was some stuff in your childhood that you liked, but it wasn't really important to you until, you know, now you've got a career in it, and maybe there's some things about it as an adult that you appreciate. But, you know, it doesn't sound like it was. And correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, maybe I'm wrong and it just hasn't come across in the phone call, but it doesn't sound like horror was a big part of your life up until your career.
No, there was always that child in me that said, scare me to death. Mm-hmm. It's just that I didn't, I wasn't seeking it out. I caught it when I could, you know, when there's something, I just can't remember what they were, but I love great horror. You know, if I can sit down and watch it, and you can get me to sit down and watch it, I'll you know, right. I was the first, I was on the jury at Sieges. And when Old Boy came out, and when they had the Inside as well, oh wow, and it didn't get that didn't get to the United States until years later.
When you say on the jury, you mean like on a judges panel, or
yes, nice. And so I, you know, oh my God, I mean, Old Boy came out. We voted Old Boy as the #1 film. There were several others that were great films.
What did you like about Old Boy?
Oh God!
How devastating the
I love Korean horror.
Yeah,
I love Korean directors. I love their horror. I just, you know, there's something that they do that just captivates me when I watch good Korean horror, and they do it well. Johnny To in Hong Kong too does very well. More action adventure, but he's good as well. I was very much into Japanese as well, Japanese films, and certainly samurai and Kurosawa. So I like good. You know, I like good stuff, you know, no matter what it is. It's good. I mean, I was taken by Laurence Olivier doing Othello when I was 8 years old. So I was a little strange. Okay. So, but, no, I love horror. It's still part of me. Inside is still one of my favorite horror films for being totally gory and sickening, but a great story.
Do you see any kind of common threads about what kind of horror you like monster films, metaphysical, body horror?
Oh, God, I don't know. I watched one recently, not recently, but last year. They're trapped in a cave. I can't think of the name.
The Descent?
Descent, yes. Descent. Yes, Descent. I like Descent. Also like the... was it the Levels? Was it Levels?
Is it the one platform? Yeah. I still haven't checked that out. I see it all over the place.
Yeah,
it looks good.
Love Platform.
What'd you like about The Descent?
Oh, just gruely. And the story, twisty.
Mm-hmm.
Just great actors. And the story was very pretty predictable and then complex at the same time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Okay. You know, you thought you got it, and then well, okay.
If I'm not mistaken, I think the woman who played Sarah in The Descent is in something that came out recently too, called Oxygen, where the whole thing is her inside of a life support unit. So it's just one of those, like Ryan Reynolds in the one where he was buried. What was the name of it? Buried. It's just her the whole time, but that's really good. If you like Descent, and Shauna McDonald.
Yeah. I like The Invisible Man too.
I mean, which one? There's like
all of them. all of them.
Do you see any common threads about the kinds of stories in them that you like? If not, maybe the trappings, then is there common threads?
There is not. See, that's you know, that's one thing about me. I like good horror, good music, and I can like different styles. You know, just so it's good. If I find it good, then I like it. I'm not someone that likes a certain style that And that's
well, I didn't mean to say that I wasn't trying to pigeonhole you, but it was more trying to say that if we could find some sort of common themes, then that might speak to what it is that you personally get out of the enjoyment of these things. Do you know what I mean?
Oh God, I think that it's always that you find something that makes you jump. Something that shocks you.
Yeah,
that's something that makes you take a deep breath. And it's always, in the Alien, it was always the guy lies on the table and that thing pops out of his gut. And that for me was enough. The other things were okay, but, and a little terrifying. But the thing the part where he comes out, where he's suffering and the same thing, I guess the emotion that shows the most torment, the pain, and the climax from that, whether it's going to be good or bad. I remember on inside it was just this woman was going to have a baby, and this woman was trying to kill her with everything she could, and it was. Is she going to do it? Is she going to? I like mystery. I like suspense. I like a good story. And the stories are important. Like Platform. Platform had a great story. I said, this is.
I mean, that can be a common theme. That's something that's come up in a couple of our guests in the past. Is just whether it's body horror or slasher. I like a good story as long as it's a well put together writing.
It's story and that wow factor and the jump out of your seat factor.
Okay.
Those are the three things that I would look for. Something that intrigues me, keeps me in the story. I'm involved. I'm surprised by it. And then there's something that's going to make me go, ooh, I want to jump out of my seat. I want to see that. That's a hell of a horror film. That's what I appreciate. I think
the reason. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Well, all the things that you've mentioned are perfectly fine and accurate. What we sometimes find, and this is not always the case, just saying that sometimes we've had some guests that in talking about these things, we've seen common threads crop up that even the guest didn't necessarily expect. Like, for example, we had one guest who had haunted houses. He had a love of things that involved haunted houses. And when we dug into that, it turned out that when he was a kid, he and his father used to put on a haunted house in their yard for the neighbors and things like that. So there was like this maybe a strong familial connection with his father. With another guest, we discovered that they had a common thread that kept popping up about eyes, having fears related to eyes being affected in movies. And for that person, he was an artist. And so losing obviously his sense of sight as an artist is a very traumatic thing and would probably stop him from being able to draw and things like that. So all of the things that you've mentioned obviously make sense. And there's nothing wrong with just saying, this is it. There's nothing deeper than that. It's just that part of the conversation we have is trying to see if there is anything deeper, and there doesn't need to be, but it's interesting sometimes if there is.
I don't think that I have anything that is going any deeper than the story. I think the story is far more important than anything else for me. And if it's a good story, then I am involved and I'm thrilled with it. I'm able to follow it. And it may take me in any direction. And for this journey, I follow the journey of the story if it's good. And that's
when you mentioned as a child, for example, listening to The Lone Ranger and Superman and things like that.
Yeah.
A good story, the excitement, it seems like it might be just the common theme for you is just the excitement of it.
There has to be for horror film. There's got to be, again, that's horror, and I'm not quite sure I'm a different kind of candidate for this because I'm probably, I like various influences. And I'm not quite sure if what I experienced as a child would have anything to do with.
Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah, I don't think it does. I think that like everyone else as a child, I had that Friday night scare me to death. Oh, we were scared. And I still look for a horror film to at least have a great story like Descent. And there are stories like The Omen. The one with the kid, the boy next door, the people who took care of this little puppet.
Oh yeah, yeah, it was just the boy.
Yeah, the boy. Yeah, I mean, I love that story. Mm-hmm. It wasn't much, and in terms of you kind of look at it and you said it's kind of come on now, really. They're not really they're not really keeping a toy baby and they're gonna kill him. This is not really gonna sell. But as I watched it, I enjoyed it. Mm-hmm. So let me try
something else or try something different. I'm going to ask you two questions. I'm going to give them to you at the same time because it could be the same answer for both or it could be two different answers. And these two questions I'm going to ask you, we're not just talking about horror. It's any genre and any time of your life, young, childhood or adulthood. So the two questions are, if you had to pick a favorite movie, what's your favorite movie? And then the second question is, what movie do you think you've watched more times than any other?
So basically, Desert Island movie, and what's the one you've watched more than?
Steve, you really got the wrong guy.
Well, no, wait a minute.
I tell you why. My favorite movie, I can give you off the top of my head.
Sure, go ahead.
I can give you one, and I can give you 50, but I'm going to give you one. Okay.
Okay.
First it comes
okay.
To
Lawrence of Arabia.
Okay.
All right.
And if you want to know why, I can tell you why.
Go for it.
Oh yeah. I love the cinematography. I love David Lean. I love Anthony Quinn saying I'm a river to my people. Mm-hmm. I love that character. I love Peter O'Toole with the match in his hand. I love the sand. I love the beauty. I love the sunset. I love the sun. I love when they're in the desert. I love when the guy falls off the camel and he has to go get him. And then when he gets him and saves him, he has to kill him in the next few scenes.
Okay, so the second question.
Yes, sir.
Which one have you seen more times than any other?
Spartacus or Lawrence of Arabia. I could name maybe those two.
I mean, that's impressive. If
Sunset Boulevard.
Okay.
It's a Wonderful Life. I've seen more, and also any Frank Capra movie. I love Frank Capra.
So the reason that I wanted to ask those two questions is because they would do one of two things. They would either highlight something new that we haven't talked about or underscore something we've already talked about. Mm-hmm. And I think in this case, it's actually underscoring something we already talked about, which is going back to the Lone Ranger and
the hero, baby. Hero.
Yeah,
Lone Ranger.
These are adventures.
Sure.
These are adventures.
The adventures. I love adventure movies, yes. But at the same time, if you put me in front of Mr. Smith Goes to Washington or Meet John Doe, I am as happy as a man can be.
Well, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington could be a hero movie. I mean, he was a hero.
They were heroes as well. That's right.
Right.
So yes, you could if you want to plug it, and if you want to find that there's a common thread between them, it is that I love where someone is fighting for justice, someone is fighting for somebody else, somebody is standing up to all standing up to the forces and fighting for the underdog, and is the hero. Yes, I love those. And I love those kind of films, and I love action adventure. I love good war movies as well.
Yeah.
And that can also apply to horror as well.
Yeah. I'm just a confused mix of things.
No, I mean, that all sounds pretty logical to me. I guess the last question I'd like to ask then is, just considering the theme of the podcast, is there anything else you've thought about that we haven't asked about?
That's a question. That's a good question.
Isn't
Have
it?
you thought about that? Yeah.
What's that?
Yeah. Well, hell, you haven't asked. We really didn't get into the other guys.
What other guys?
Rob Zombie. We didn't get into Texas Chainsaw Massacre. There are a lot of stories about these
So
people.
let me ask you something.
Yeah.
Like, one of the things that's come up often in our podcast and in other calls is, there's a difference between being a fan of something and being an auteur. And in your case, the work that you're doing, you obviously have an appreciation for it as the auteur.
Yes.
And for some people, it's impossible to split out their love of something as an auteur from their love of something as a fan.
I understand.
Do you think you're capable of doing that, or is that too tied in with you?
I'm capable of doing that, I'm sure.
Okay. So what do you like about those things as a fan?
As a fan, the end product, I'm appreciated. I appreciate when I saw Dawn of the Dead, when I saw Texas Chainsaw Massacre, when I saw them as a fan, I liked what it was, again, taking me back to when I was as a kid watching them. Same thing. It's me. It's the dark lights. It's watching a great horror film, and it's it's relive. I guess it's the same feeling that I had as a child.
Okay, reliving that thrill of the scare.
That same thrill. Yes. So as a fan, I had that. Watching all of those films. I didn't have to be in them. just watching them. I've watched. As a matter of fact, I sometimes say, why? I close my eyes and say, why am I there? Let's move on to the next scene. I'm enjoying the film. Now I got to think about if my shirt's on straight,
Right.
So,
A lot of people say that,
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of people say they can't watch themselves.
Yeah, sometimes. So I find myself becoming, and this is a real issue with sitting with someone else and watching a film. Because I'm in the business, I find myself looking for continuity.
Yep. You look for continuity errers, or you listen for audio problems.
Errors all the time, and I can't help it. And I catch it in some of the best productions. It doesn't matter what the cost of the production, of the stars involved, or the lack of production quality, or the lack of experienced actors. I catch it all the time, and I want to say it to someone that's sitting next to me, and I say, "Oh, look at that!" They say, "Will you shut the hell up?"
Right? Yeah.
I
get the same thing. People will not watch movies with me because they're like, "Can we just watch the thing?" Yeah, but look, that's a different pattern plaid on this guy's shirt from the last scene. You didn't catch it. I didn't catch it because I'm enjoying the fucking movie.
That's right. Shut up, please. Don't leave the room. Leave the room.
Yeah.
So
but it's my house.
Right? Get out.
All right. Leave the room anyway. I got
I realized I forgot at the start of the call. I forgot to give you a spot to pitch whatever it is that you wanted to. What you're currently working.
Oh my God! Currently working. What I got?
What do you got?
Have you seen John Henry, guys?
I have seen it on your page. Scrolling through a couple of pics. I haven't seen it yet, but
wacky character I play.
Yeah,
wacky character. Yeah. Terry Crews is in it.
Okay,
does a wonderful job.
Nice.
And
is it already out?
Oh yes, it's playing. This. Let me tell you, got horrible reviews, but this played for 10 days in the top 10 Netflix.
Nice.
10 days. I know films that got great reviews that were high budget films that didn't last 10 days in Netflix top 10. This did. It did the same thing in Europe. And then there's The Rift that's on Amazon Prime. I did it some years ago in Serbia, but it's still playing. And
Okay.
it's just interesting stories about these films, especially about the Rift. And I could go on and on about it because it would. Let's just. I guess we'll say this for another time, but it's called the Rift, and we ended up calling it the Limp because so many of us we were injured. You know, the leading lady, I think she broke her leg 2 weeks into shooting, and my knees were a mess by the time I got there. So you know. Yeah, so
that sucks. It
was a mess. I got better and was able to run toward the end of the shoot, and she was in so much pain she could barely. It was horrible. It was very hard to watch. She's what a trooper. What a trooper. What a trooper.
We'll put together a bio page for you on our website and link to whatever it is that you'd like us to link to. So
okay, yeah. Oh, I've got a website coming. Got a new website that we're launching. I've got a meeting with these guys coming up today, and I'm on Instagram Kim Foree 8, and Instagram Kim Foree 8, and Twitter, and also Facebook. No more friends on Facebook because I've got my 5,000 limit. So. Anybody listening, don't ask to friend me.
Don't feel bad.
Do it.
5,000 is a good number. It's a good round number.
So we're good?
Well, yeah, we very much appreciate your time. Thanks for coming to talk to us.
Yeah, it was a blast talking to you.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Been enjoyable.
Yeah.
You want to hear some more stories? Call me back.
Okay.
I'll charge you. Now, as Ali said.
There it is.
And as Ali said, I'm not coming back. It pays too slow. It pays too low. So that was a Muhammad Ali. Did you see Ali's documentary, by the way?
Not yet, no.
On PBS. But Ken Burns. Did you see it, guys?
No.
No, but if it's on PBS, I'll have to check that out.
You got to see Ali's documentary, man. That's part of history that you were part of and your family's part of, so you got to see that. So do find it and look at all 8 episodes. It will be an enlightenment for you. And I'll tell you a little bit about my life as well, because I was back there in a lot of things he was involved in around, a lot of people he was around. So do take a look at that. You'll enjoy it.
On Google, I will.
You enjoy it. It's an education.
Well, thank you, sir. And thank you to anybody out there listening. Again, please do come visit us at horrormakesushappy.com. We've got links to our social media there and merch and all kinds of fun stuff. But really, basically, the bottom line is if you like what you hear, please tell a friend.